Good afternoon. I know this seems like a rather bizarre opening. This video is really all about 5G and whether you and I will ever get it. But as one of the many channel owners, which I learned again last night, if you start off a video in the same location wearing similar clothes, like I know this one guy on MRC TV, same mantle, same jacket, same shirt, every show, which meant he wasn't wealthy. I'm wealthy in dirt, but I'm not wealthy in the bank. You know what I'm saying, Mr. IRS agent? Come ahead after my homestead. So, in a moment I'll rip this off as I begin to talk, but those of you who are completely ignorant of the fact that YouTube uses this alphanumeric designation for every pixel on your screen. If you're shooting something at least close to where you were last time, you have a similar background, and please, these shirts, you know, this is the University of Texas color. I've owned over 1,000 shirts and sweaters this color. Maroon, Texas A&M just ain't my color. So I tell you what, now that the algorithms have had a chance to realize that this is a new video, which last time I was 1 gig in on the upload, they canceled it, backed up to the start, and then restarted because they must have realized their own mistake, which is that it was a totally different video, just by slight camera movements. Okay, here we go once again. I'm back. And before I go on, you know I got to have my purple drink. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. It's a good time of day because although it's killing my solar system, the sun's behind some heavy clouds. And it's still while till dark, but the real question here is, will you and I ever see 5G? I know I won't in my lifetime, and based on some just basic summaries of population distribution, networks, etc., the way they're developing, the speed they're developing, etc., and I know that, and please, as a loyal Motorola customer now going into my 5th year, Motorola was kind enough to offer me the Moto Z Droid, the only really, truly new, improved cell phone, way above Apple and their overpriced garbage that's, you know, with terrible engineering. Motorola's got excellent engineering, even when they went to these Moto Lenovo phones that are a bit flimsier, but they have the app situation under control. I have full, you know, network connection, even though I'm 14 miles away from the tower I'm transmitting to. And really, right now, I'm not transmitting; I'm recording. And I've got a blocker over there, right there, that keeps me from hooking into any other what is now hundreds and hundreds of transceivers and 30 some odd towers are trying to shoot over this hill, the highest hill in this area. So let's get on with the talk about 5G, because I'd really like to keep this to about 10 minutes. And if you notice, I don't look right at the camera, because this is a phone, the camera's over there. One guy accused me of reading off a script when I was actually just blathering drunk, and so, yeah, sure, dude. You're a natural born liar, drug addict who's, you know, wears Depends all day long until they're, you know, you go through like 1 Depends a day, even though you have like 1,800 bowel movements. Okay, that's what a kind of a lying loser you are, dude. Now, first, Motorola offered me the Moto Z Droid, which I would love to have, but then there's, you know, just, I don't believe in spending too much for a phone that I know is inexpensive. My real usual limit is no more than 5 times the cost of production. You know, it's because the rest of you idiots, you Apple idiots and stuff like that, you're out there paying, depending on the country, you're paying, 40 to 100 times the cost of production. So let's get on with the 5G. I finally watched one video, which I found to be technically accurate, is that 5G only works within 1 kilometer, 1,000 meters. Actually I'm 8 miles from the optic fiber cables. I'll get to that in a minute again if I can remember about my neighbor, throwing his money out there so he could get a T1, or I should throw that in right now. I have a neighbor not too far down the road who spent money on a cable just for his house. It may be able to carry other loads, but he spent, minimum would have been $150,000 just actually hooking into that giant mass of fiber optic cables that took 2 years to lay through this county, especially across the mighty Brazos River and so on. And I watched them. I was going like, first I thought that was like, man, that's like I may have mentioned this before, that's the smallest gas pipeline I've ever seen, but no, it was fiber optic. He was willing to lay out 150, 200, probably closer to 250 grand for a 5-mile hookup from the main branch of one of the biggest east-west arteries I've ever seen. I've never seen so many huge fiber optic cables in my whole life and stuff, and it took them 2 full years to lay it across this county. I'm sure they're working in other counties, but at least I know now all the details of laying fiber optics, how every spool has to be joined, and was it every 20 miles you have to use a light amplification device and so on. But the reality is that I watched one video, and then that quickly brought up another video that showed me, actually it's this preceded the another video, but a guy got within, the next video said is that if, like, you live in New York, I think it was, if you're not, right under the Apple store, you're not going to get 5G. So in the next video, the guy backed off about 800, 900 meters from the transceivers on that building, the Apple Store building, which is really only the bottom floor. I'm sure Apple owns the entire building, though, I bet you. And he proved a simple effect, that we all know about, which is reflectivity. I've had idiots tell me, you can improve your cell phone reception if you just put your cell phone in front of a glass of water. Yeah, you're really smart. This guy backed off to about 800 meters or so, still within range. And he showed that out front he had perfect 5G reception. He walked inside and then stood behind that thick insulated, that thick safety glass, and immediately went down to 3G and 4G, no 5G. So if you really take the time to think about it, if you live in a rural area like I do, I'm transmitting to a tower flawlessly now because I use a Motorola product that restricts, has the contractual right for at least phones that I know will last. I haven't done future research. I know I can still buy phones for another 2 years that will work perfectly for me because Motorola paid. Motorola's got plenty of cash. They're a big company. They paid Android money to alter the Android operating system so that people like me could be free of their endless, breaks from the network. And it's actually you people. I want to get that in here. I probably will go 12 or 13 minutes. You people that have the 1 terabyte smartphones and you live right in town, you want to keep videos and all your apps running in the background. You want to be able to do everything. You want to talk on the phone while you're pulling up, the weather map, the road map, all this stuff. You're the ones that are overloading the network. You get priority, and you're often paying, between that and the occasional purchase, you're paying $200. You're paying another 20. you spend $1,500 to $2,000 in some countries on that phone, and then you're paying another $2,400 a year for all kind of insurance and warranties and fees and data fees and so on. And you're the ones that make it difficult for those of us who don't want to live. And actually, have you ever noticed that anytime somebody gets some wealth, or they always buy a country house that's far from the towers, etc.? And actually here in Texas, we have more millionaires than any other state, and they earned it often through agriculture or oil in their property, or agriculture, cattle, etc. And we're largely rural. That's one of the reasons that Texas is such a conservative state, is that while we may own a home in Houston or Austin or Dallas, our primary domiciles are in rural areas. And that's where, because we know that all the liberals are corralled, and that's what they love. They're concrete hillbillies. They love the smell of asphalt and concrete, and they love being, and we live in the country, and we register to vote in those counties. That's why Texas is 70% conservative and will stay conservative. There will be no blue wave, which fake Frijolero, Beto Patrick O'Rourke, who was, this will go 15 minutes, Francis O'Rourke doesn't have a drop of Hispanic blood in him. And back in the early 90s, he was a transvestite punk rocker. And that's why he beat, that's why Senator Ted Cruz, I didn't really appreciate his genius until he was interrogating Google and Facebook in front of the Congressional Committee, him and Congressman Ben Crenshaw. That's why he beat Beto O'Rourke. Beto O'Rourke is a complete numbnuts, socialist, Green Party loser who can't possibly, even though he had, one of the rare pockets. See, let me explain to you, those of you, who've got a second here before I finish up with 5G. Recently I've been reading these comments that Hispanics don't vote Republican. I'm sorry. The conservative Hispanics, they moved to Texas, largely rural areas, and got rich or and the broke-ass liberal Hispanics moved to the cities and vote for every free thing they can, and we will always beat them that way. The liberal, cultural Marxist, commie, because Mexico has been a socialist state, except I think under Vicente Fox, for centuries. It's technically now it's going into its 2 centuries. But I just want to finish this because I have all of a minute and a half. If you live in certain states and you live in, rural areas and stuff like that, it doesn't matter how much money you have and stuff like that, unless you go satellite or something like that, you're never going to have full connectivity. I was talking to a guy today that admits that even around here, I used to have HughesNet. Gosh, it was $3,600 a month for a DSL, and they would throw in 150 channels of TV that I don't watch. I kept trying to make a deal with them, but they just wouldn't, and I shut them down many years ago. Packed up my laptop. I'm a recovering workaholic. Ain't going to have it no more. But you need to really ask yourself before you buy any phone that upgrades to 5G, will 5G ever reach you? You better look at where you're living. That isn't going to probably happen for a long time. That's the end of this video.